Hello there, and welcome back to the clairecodes channel. This is episode 2 of my Dribbble series 2, wherein we are coding up a confectionery website design that I found on, you guessed it, Dribbble. And this design is made by Tubic, and I will include a link to the Dribbble page where you can find it. And I chose this design because it was very well laid out. I felt like it was a full page that we could all work on together. And this is the Figma file that we are working from. And remember, we are starting mobile first. So we're focusing on 320 pixel size. And in part 1, we coded up this header. And we are using HTML, SCSS, and JavaScript. And as the professional front-end developers we are, we're using this Figma file to get the exact styling down pat, from inspecting and finding the font, to the weight, to the style, and all of the above. Additionally, as always, I will include the GitHub tutorial. This is where in part 1 we downloaded the base, and then all of the code we are currently working on can be found in Claire Feature Mobile. So without further ado, let's jump into the code. Okay, let's go back to our Figma file. And since we have this top part, and let's actually pull that up. So this is our code so far. This is our index.html. Let's open up the terminal. And then let's do yarn dev. Okay, so now we should be running on localhost 3000. Which actually opened in my other window. Okay, perfect. And since we are doing mobile first, let's inspect. Okay, so this is where we're at. We have our header. And so next, let's zoom in again. Let's move on to this section. So here we have a little title, some body text, and then a button. So I actually want to call this section the CTA. So in our SAS folder, I'm going to add a SCSS file. And I'm going to call this _cta.scss. And then, like all of our SCSS files, we need to go into main, and we need to import it. So I'm going to save all that. Then let's actually get a side by side, and let's pull up the base. And I'm going to include all of our variables that we already have set up into CTA. And let's call this CTA section so we know what we're doing. Let's bring that over here. Let's get going. So let's go back and see what's going on. So we have the title, fondness collection, and then this body text. So let's get that in there. So let's see where the header, we actually want the whole header because this is a whole new section. Where does that close? Okay, that makes sense because it's all within a container div. So I'm going to put a separating space there so I can keep track of the different sections. And then let's give this div a class of CTA. And we're off to the races. Then within here, I'm going to have our little subhead title of this section be an H4. And I'm going to give it a class of CTA title. And remember, we are going to nest this all within our SCSS. So that's why we're doing these underscores. So when I write it here, I'm going to start with CTA and then open and close that. And then within there, I'm going to do ampersand __ title for when I'm ready to put the styling in. So I'll just leave it like that for now. And then we know that this is fondness. Collection. Sweet. And then below that, let's actually close this so we can see better what's going on. We're going to have the body text, and I'm going to make that an H5. And I'm going to just copy this. And let's just give it the class of, body text. Sweet. And then the best thing, too, about Figma is I can just copy it from here and paste it in. Let's see if we can expand this a little bit. Cool. So now we have our body text there. And then next we have our button. So our button, what does that say? It says see in store. So let's go back here below our H5. Let's add a button in. And it's nice because it actually has its own tag. And let's give that a class, CTA button. And then within here, we know it says C in store. And then our button actually has a little bit of its own styling. So there's like a box within a box. So I'm actually going to make this a separate div and then move it on top of the button. There are plenty of ways of doing this. This is just, you know, kind of the way I decided to go about it. So let's go CTA button border. So let's see what's going on. So if we go to our Dribbble site, yeah. And as you can see, the header actually is what had the padding. So we're going to have to inject padding into the CTA and then all of our styling, of course. So let's go back here to CTA and let's get going. So let's add in padding of 48 pixels. Okay, and then let's tackle the title. So let's see. We can see here that it's play fair display, weight 70. So let's see if we can, I don't think I can copy it directly. Oh, weight 700, I mean. Normal, 14 pixels. Okay, so let's do font family. And remember, we have the variables defined up here. So I'm going to go display font, font weight, 700, font size, 14 pixels. Let's go back. I forgot to look at so it's this color. So let's see what variable that is. That's red. Color, red. Let's see. It should be coming into view. Perfect. Okay, the other thing is, as we can tell, it curves underneath. So let's see. Let's actually get in there. Actually, it's fine in there. So as we can see, the width is 137 pixels. So I'll just do width of 136 pixels. So now it should, that is not the right width. Let's go even smaller. Let's do 86 pixels. Cool. So now it's curving underneath, which is perfect. So now let's tackle the next section. So we have our body text. As we can see, there's a 34 pixel margin. So let's grab this from here. And let's use our ampersand method. Too much underscoring. I think it was 36 pixels. We're going with that. And then I know that this is going to have a font family of, coincidentally, body text. And let's see what color we've got going on. We have the A color, which I think is beige, and font size of 12 pixels and a weight of 600. Font size, 12 pixels. And let's look up here. Yes, it is beige. I always want to say like it's font color because everything else has that. And then I'm like, no, it's just color. Gets me every time. And let's see what's going on. So of course, as you can tell, this is always like a continual process. Okay, I think we're ready to move on to the button. Very exciting. Okay, so we called that just underscore button. Easy enough. All right, and I know that this also has a beige border and a color of beige as well. So I'm going to give it the border first. So that is border. And I also know it's 2 pixels. Solid beige. And then it's going to have a font family as well. I believe it's display font. Yes. Okay, cool. Display font. Color of beige. Yes. And then the font size, I remember as well, is 12 pixels. And then if we look at the button right now, as we can see, like the border and the padding are just built-in button. And then also it actually has like a slight background color. So we want to get rid of that. So we are going to make the background color transparent. And the padding, I kind of explored this before and I found the best padding ratio was 10 pixels above and below. That's what the first number is, and 50 pixels to the side. And then I want to give it a margin above, because it was like right against the text, of 50 pixels. And the text was also uppercase. So we're going to transform that. Okay, let's see. Sweet, it's coming into view. Okay, so now we want to add that decoration. So let's go for it. And even though I don't have it here, I would probably put some sort of hover effect. That is not outlined here, but I'm sure if there was like an interactive designer working on this, there would be, you know, a hover color and all of that. We're not going to tackle that today, but just to keep in mind that hovers are always a good thing so that the user knows what's going on. So let's give this also, actually we can copy a few things. Let's just grab the border. We know that's going to be the same. Okay, so I did this, I experimented a little before and I found that having a height of 36 pixels and a width of 180 pixels really works. So let's see what that is looking like. Okay, cool. So that's exactly the same, but as you can see, it is resting below there. So I'm going to give it a margin top of negative 34 pixels and then a margin left of 6 pixels just to move it a tad over. Cool. And it is slightly different than what's going on here. As you can see, it's kind of going the other way, but I kind of liked this better. And then if you click on it, you can see where the button actually is happening. So if there was a hover effect and maybe it became like totally opaque here, I think that that would look really good and show you what's clickable, and it would still have this, you know, kind of effect of like coming forward. All right, I think that that's good for our CTA section. And next we will move on to the content section, which is going to have an iframe video, this title, and some images. And then something that's cool is in that the demo we looked at, this is actually going to have a CSS animation where it keeps scrolling. All right, so let's move on to the content section. I feel good about CTA. Okay, so moving on to the content section, just like we did with the CTA, let's go into our SCSS directory and add in a content.scss. So this is just how I'm choosing to name it. Obviously, if you're working on a team and you're a front-end developer, try to go along with your team conventions, and you can definitely ask if you're unsure. Sometimes I definitely struggle with naming. So this just seemed kind of right. So again, I'm going to paste in our variables, call this the content section. Now let's close this so we have more space. Maybe I'll expand this out. Okay, cool. So now below here, still within our container, let's make another div. And you guessed it, this will be content. And then within here, the first thing I want is an iframe. I think I pulled up a video. I don't have it here. One moment. So I chose this chocolate bar. And then if you go to, let's close out of that, share, and then you click embed, it'll give you the iframe information, which is perfect. That's just what we need. So we're going to go back here and we'll paste it into content because that's the first thing going on. So I don't want it to have a set width and height. I want it to be responsive. So I'm going to get rid of that, and I'm going to give it the class of, actually, first thing I want to do is I want to wrap this in a div because that's very important to making it responsive, because we're going to have the iframe responsive to the container. So let's give this a class of content video container. And then within here, let's copy that and let's give this a class of just video. Let's save that. And then within here, let's start this file off right with content. And then within here, so we're not going to add the padding right away because I know that this is full width. If we go back to our Figma file on mobile. So later on, the padding will come into play, but for now, let's just keep it full width. So for content, let's go and Okay, so I want this to have position relative and overflow hidden. And then I want it to take up the full width. So let's go with 100%. And then I actually had to look this up. In order to make it have the right ratio, we're going to give it a padding top of 56.25%. This sounds a little random, but we want to keep the 16:9 aspect ratio. And so if you divide 9 by 16, you get this percentage. You get 0.5625. And so this keeps the ratio, and the padding is what lends to the height. Okay, now we're going to style the iframe itself. So let's go to video. And then within our relative position div, we're going to make this position absolute. You always want your position absolute to be located within a relative div, and this is what keeps it relative to the other one. I hope that makes sense. And then this is just making it so that it expands the full width and height, so everything is going to be 0. Bottom 0 and right 0. And then again, we want it to be the full width and height, so we're going to do width 100%, height 100%. Cool. Now let's check on it. What did we not do? Okay, so let's see what is not going on. We have our video here. I think what I forgot to do is go into the main, correct, and import. So because we didn't have a defined height and width, it was not being updated. There we go. So now we have the chocolate bar. It is there. Sweet. So always remember to connect everything up and debug when you see something does not look right, and just check your work. Okay, so the next thing after this is we have this content section. So we have another title and we have images. So I'm going to go back here, and I'm actually going to take this and move it outside of our video container, which makes sense. And then I know too, so I believe this is, yes, our video container. You can always check in on that. And this is still within our content container. Oop, definitely make it a class. And then I know that the mobile images are different than our other views. And I'll show you what's going on in a second. So here they're stacked, and here they're kind of going, there's a decoration, right, left, decoration. So I think that I actually want to just make this whole section different for mobile versus tablet and desktop. So I'm just going to have this display none when it gets to that size. Again, there is a way with like flex where I could have it so that it like moves, but I think that this is the least complicated version. So I'm going to go this route. Okay, so then within here, I know we're going to have our 2 images. And then, so we're going to have an image. And then remember we have the decoration. So let's just make that a div. And let's give it a class of content decoration. And then let's actually copy this, because we definitely want our images to have classes as well. So, oops, ignore. Okay, that's a warning sign. Definitely keep space on your computers. Okay, and then this is going to be image 1. And then I'm going to copy that. And let's go here. Image 2. Let's save that. Let's bring that back up layer. Okay, so what I did, and you don't have access to this Figma, what I did is I grabbed this, and then, I'll put these images in our Google Drive folder, so you will have access to them. But as you can see, I just exported them as 2 layers. So let me actually drop those in, because I have them still on my computer, and hopefully this will work. Perfect, they're here. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, and we can double check, perfect. All right, so image 1 is going to be the source, and I actually got the image names kind of incorrect, but it's close enough. Source./img chalk2. Let's just copy that. And then we're also going to put in an alt tag so that a screen reader, or if they don't load right away, everyone, a screen reader especially, will know what's going on. So let's give this an alt of, and I know that this one is a bowl of poured chocolate. And then this one, let's just give it, and as descriptive as possible is the best, spoon with poured chocolate. Okay, beautiful. And now let's get to our styling. So let's see what's going on so far. I think they're all going to be just stacked there. Yeah, and you can't even see right now our div. It's not centered, and you can't see the decoration div because we haven't given it a width or a height or what have you. So let's go into mobile container, and we'll worry in our next section about making it display none at the correct place. And then I know that I want this to have a bottom of, let's look here. I'm going to give this section a margin top, so I know that I don't want this to have a padding bottom. All right, I guess this whole section will have a padding top. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do padding, and I'm going to select first, it goes clockwise, so it's going to be 48 pixels, which we've been using, then the right, 48 pixels, and then the bottom, 0 pixels, and then the left, 48 pixels. Let's save that. So this is our mobile container, great. Now let's go to the title. And I do want this to have a margin top. We can actually grab some of this, I think, from if we go into our header. Yeah. So I know that this is a display and it's going to be the largest one. So let's just grab everything from here. And let's paste that in. I think that all looks right. And let's look at what's going on. Okay, what happened to our header? Did I not include a header? No, I did not put a title in. Okay. So always check your work. Cool. H1. And let's give this class of content title as we named it over there. Not tile. And then this says our favorite phrase, chocolate making has always been wound in mystery. How exciting. Okay, perfect. Cool. So the only thing I don't like is I don't see the padding. Mobile images. I see what happened. Okay. So we have our mobile images exchanged in there. But I actually want another div. Got it. So we definitely want our images within here, this div. But we actually want all of this content within a mobile container. Okay, and then let's find that. Okay, I think if I add, and we can check that this works. Cool. Okay. So the only thing I see now is that our images aren't laid out and that you can see also they're not centered, and we can click in and see what's going on. So this is with the padding on the side, and these are actually taking up a further width than we want. So let's scroll down. We have our title. I definitely want to put some margin on our mobile images, and let's see what's going on. So if we go to inspect, click here, there's 37, so I'm just going to round that. So let's select mobile images, margin top of 38 pixels. Save that. Now let's move on to the decoration, which is in the middle. Okay. And so if we look back here, I can actually get something that's cool is the transform. I know is that, and the width and height here. So let's just copy and paste that in. Let's go back, and we want to transform it -45 degrees. And this is the D, which is red. So let's give it a background color red. I love these variables. And then we want it to be centered, so I'm going to give it a margin of 0 auto, yes. Forgot that for a second. Very important to know how to center things. And then I want to also have our images so that there's some space between the decoration and the images, which as you can see, there is none right now. So I'm going to first select image 1, and then I'm going to give it margin bottom of, I think 33 pixels will look good, and a width so that the image just takes up 100% and doesn't overflow. And let's copy this, apply it to image 2, and this time we're going to give it a margin top. Let's save all that. Cool, that's looking great. All right, so let's move on to the next section, which actually looks a lot like our CTA, right? We have the title, we have this. The only thing that's different is we have a bottom section. So I'm actually going to go and let's go back to our CTA. Let's go down here. So we have, this is the ultimate container div. So let's go here, and it's great if you can reuse things. So we're just going to give this the class of CTA. We're back in business. And then we know from above, we used an H4 with a class of CTA. We can see right here, title is what we want. And this also says fondness. And remember, this is just, you know, a mock-up, so this is all kind of just filler for now. You know, if you're working on a real project, definitely you'd have real text. Makes sense. And then we want to give this a class, let's see, body text, yep. And then once again, let's actually grab the text from here. So I'm going to click in, copy, paste it in. So if you're, you know, coding along, definitely feel free to use lorem ipsum or look at the code itself to grab the exact text if you feel so inclined. All right, and we're not going to have a button here. What we are going to have is another section, and let's call this a headline. And what it says is, it says basically what we've been saying. You know, chocolate making has always been wound in mystery, but here it's going to keep, and if we kind of see what's going on, let's let it cycle through again. It has a CSS animation. As we can see, it's just constantly rotating, which is very cool. So below this H5, I'm going to have an H1, and I'm going to give this a class of CTA headline, and then let's grab, where's chocolate? It's always been wound in mystery. Beautiful. Let's put that there. And then I'm just going to paste this in with a star, just like 3 times, so that we know it'll always cycle through. And right now it's just going to be just there, you know, and not styled. We haven't styled yet, but as you can see, it's still within the margin, and we want it to kind of just break out, right? So I know that I want this. Let's go back to the content section, and let's grab our title once again, because I know I want it to be very similar to this. Let's go back to the CTA, and we called this headline. So, and headline. Let's paste that all in. Cool. So something now, looking back, I know that both I want to make the whole CTA, because we want this to break out of the div. So I'm going to have overflow, and I'm going to specifically call it X hidden. And then, okay, cool. We saw that kind of change, which was nice. And then down here, I don't want it to break. I just want it to just no wrap, right? I don't want it to wrap around. So there's actually a thing called white space, no wrap. Sweet. And then I'm going to give it a defined width so that when it cycles through, and we're definitely going to have to change this when we get to a larger size, I believe, but we'll see how it goes. Of just 1,200 pixels. I just kind of picked this at random. I also know that there's a margin, a padding left of 48 pixels. So I want to get rid of that when this goes through. So I'm going to give it a margin left of negative 48 pixels. Now let's work on the animation. So this kind of reminds me of a marquee, right? So a way to make an animation is you can do keyframes, which is cool. And so I'm going to call it marquee. So when you do like different percentages, that's where it starts and where it ends. So at 0%, I want it to transform, translate, 0, 0, so start there. And then at 100%, I want it to translate negative 100. Okay. Now I'm going to call the animation here by going animation. As you can see, it takes a name, the duration, timing function, delay, and fill mode, and all of the, which is great that Visual Studio Code lets me know the different inputs that I have. So first I'm going to call marquee, which is what we called the animation. Then I want it to happen over 20 seconds. I want it to be linear. So this is just like the cycle. I want it to continual movement and not like ease or ease in, ease out. And then I want it to keep going infinitely. So let's see how that looks. Come on. Okay. So something is not working with our headline. It is getting the styling. Did we spell everything correctly? Marquee, marquee, transform, translate. I believe that's correct. Oh, okay. So this actually has to be a percentage, of course. Yeah, that makes sense because we didn't even give it pixels. Sweet. So we have that animation going. We have this whole content section done. I really like how this is looking. And again, this is we decided to go mobile first, which is how many front-end developers go and is best practice. So next we're going to adjust for tablet size. So in the next episode, and as you can see, there's definitely a difference with the images. We have some different styling with the headline here and the headline here. And then I think we centered this is going to be left aligned. So there's definitely going to be some different styling that we're going to have to kind of maneuver around. And then of course the padding is going to increase. So using our media queries, we will tackle this in the next episode. Thank you for watching this whole episode of my series 2 on Dribbble. I really appreciate your time, and yeah, I'll see you in the next episode. Have a great day. Bye.